Habe ich, aber nee, bin ich nicht, weil ich gerade gemerkt habe. Ja, aber ich gerade gemerkt habe, dass es HDMI ist, VGA, aber die kriege ich gerade mal eben Copy. Fange ich auf den Desktop. Ich kriege den Adapter nicht rein. Ich eben die Slides. So.
Und das ist was für ein Rechner?
Das ist jetzt der IT des Stephanies.
Und wieso geht das Ding da nicht rein?
Weil ich die Stephanie zu einem fetten USB-Stick habe. Rüberkopiert bin ich. Also
das geht schon.
Ja, ich bin nicht. Voll bekloppt bin ich noch nicht.
Nein, aber ich habe dir auch gesagt, ich kann auch nicht reden.
Ja, brauche ich jetzt nicht. Also ich glaube es. Jetzt brauche ich nur den Anschluss, das Anschlusskabel. Versuchen wir mal loszulegen. So, eigentlich, sonst müsste alles okay sein. Ich brauche nur das Kabel. Das ist wahrscheinlich yeah, you know
Here.
Let's try it. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm already in London for 4 days. So I don't even say hi.
Yeah, no, but same here. Yay, did a thing. Woo! It was good. I think we're ready to roll.
Is Brian the very first?
The first one after the chair slides, yes. Yeah?
But I need to be here for the chair slide, or can I run somewhere and get some water? Or can I
Yeah. Go.
When do we start? When do we start?
Yes. Yes. Fantastic. Okay. So, my watch says 10 to 4, so I think we should start. This is the ALTO working group. If you're here for ALTO, that's great. If you're not, you're in the wrong room, but you are welcome to stay. My co-chair, Vijay Gobani, could unfortunately not make it to this meeting. He's online. I see him right there, so he's on MeetEcho. He will be able to speak up if there's something on MeetEcho, and he's definitely listening. My name is Jan Seedorf. I'm co-chairing this working group, and I'm, as you can see, physically here today to chair the session. Before we get started, we need some, let's go through the logistics. I see MeetEcho is on, so people can listen online. We have the blue cheese going around, so please fill them out, or fill your name in if you're here. The other thing is we have two note takers, Sabine and Richard have kindly agreed. Can somebody do a JavaScribe? Anybody? I see Lyle in the last row because he wants to hide from JavaScribing. Not on that laptop. Yeah, that's the same here. Anybody? Do we definitely need a JavaScribe? We do have MeetEcho on. Brian, do you know? Do we need one? Okay, so maybe we. Is anybody on MeetEcho here in the room? Would we see if somebody speaks up in MeetEcho? Okay. No, can somebody do that? Log into MeetEcho, please, so we can get started. The purpose of this is if somebody speaks up on MeetEcho, we want to be able to see that, and then somebody could go to the mic and. Right. So I think we should have somebody. We have already two note takers, which I'm very grateful for, but so that we can get started, can somebody log into MeetEcho and speak up if somebody says something there on the chat room? Anybody? Nobody? You can do it, Berje? Thank you. That would be great. Okay, with that, I think we have the logistics ready. I'm presenting here from a MacBook that the secretariat gave to me, so I'm very thankful for that. Let's hope I can handle it, which apparently I cannot because this is an old version. How to make it full size? Tools? Why not window? Good. Thank you, Brian. So, ALTO working group, let's get started. I know most of you know this, but just for the record, this is the Note Well of the IETF. This basically means that we have certain rules here at the IETF. So please, I hope you're all aware of this. If you're not, please check the corresponding RFCs as you see here. Most importantly, if there's any IPR issue you're aware of, you should mention it here and all the other stuff. So please check this out. If you're not, I assume that everybody is aware of this policy. So what's the status of the ALTO working group? Well, the status is very simple. With the chairs, had a phone call also with our area director, Mirja, who is here, and we all agree on one thing. We want to first focus on finishing the charter items, and that's our core focus right now. The agenda has been set up accordingly. We have about half a presentation on core charter items and another half of presentations, the second half of the presentations on other interesting work, which we are happy to discuss here, but again, we want to really focus on finishing the charter items first. Actually, thank you, Live, for the blue sheets. Blue sheets, anyone? Okay, maybe okay, there's one more there and one more here. Okay, so we give it a second try. So the goal is definitely to finish the milestones first. And I actually had some discussion also today with Richard on the mailing list, I think, where you proposed some extensions. Richard, maybe I can say this right here. We are not against extending more the current work, but only if it's really needed, right? And I think you responded accordingly. Maybe on some occasions we can say, okay, let's stop the extensions of our drafts right now and finish them first. So here's the agenda. Like I said, we have about half of presentations regarding working group items and finishing the milestones. The focus from my perspective as chair, and I've discussed it with Vijay, is that I will be asking on each of these presentations, how close are we to working group last call? Because we as chairs think they are very, very close. And I think there are some dependencies on certain issues, but I think that should be the focus of our discussion. I should also say that we have a very, very tight agenda. So if we, I would ask, and I've sent this on the mailing list also, I would ask all presenters, please stick to their time slot, which is very, very short, as you can see in most cases here. But most importantly, if we have any discussions with respect to finishing working group items, I would finish those discussions at the expense of the other documents at the end of this agenda. So I hope we can give everybody a chance to present their work, but if we get in trouble, our focus is clearly working group items and milestones. Yeah, any comments to the agenda? Okay, I see none. So working group progress, since the last meeting was IETF Prague. We did have a virtual interim in December last year, and we have one more RFC published. Sabine is here. Any other co-authors of this RFC who are here right now? Anyway, congratulations, a new RFC from the ALTO working group, 8189. Yeah, what's the status of our working group items? Like I said, we had an extensive phone call with Mirja and Vijay, I think a couple of weeks ago. So one of the documents, I have a slide on this later on, that we think is ready for working group last call is cross-domain server discovery. Unfortunately, neither Martin or Sebastian could make it, but we had some discussions with them. A new version is ready, and we all think it's ready for working group last call. I talk about this a bit later. Cost calendar, we had a working group last call. There were no objections, so Vijay actually sent this on the mailing list, I think two or 3 days ago. We will move this ahead because it has been around a long time, and working group last call has raised no more further objections, so we will move this ahead. Performance metrics is a document that is a working group item, but we had some extensive discussions in the past. regarding certain things. I put here a very short note on this. We had some about semantics, feedback loops, privacy. So what Mirja actually suggested, and Vijay and I thought this was a very good suggestion, we requested a review from the IETF Transport Area Expert Team. And I have informed the authors of this document that we will wait now for the feedback. And I think this is a good thing. We get a kind of a third-party view outside of the ALTO working group, what is reasonable or not. Because, you know, sometimes we are too much into our own world and we think everything, anything is great we do. But let's get some feedback on this one. And I think this is a good document that we can use this expert area, transport area expert team. The thing is, I don't know, Mirja, you maybe know better. I think I requested that to get a feedback by end of March or something. So we wait on this. We don't have a response yet. So anyway, we don't have anything right now. We will have to see. The one thing that is a milestone, but not really close to working class call, is CDNI footprint and capabilities interface with ALTO, a document which I'm actually co-authoring. We have a presentation from Sean remotely today. So we'll see there. We're moving this ahead and we're making good progress, but I don't think it's close to working class call, but maybe Sean can present something on this. SSE, Richard, you're presenting today, so let's see. I will not say much further, but the question, of course, is how close are we to working class call? I think we're very close. Unified properties and path vector, they are listed here together because they have a dependency, so we're going to move them ahead as a bundle. That's basically what Vijay and I decided together. We have new versions on the new 03 versions on both of these documents. We had some interesting discussion on the mailing list if we want to include Sabine's work on cellular addresses. The conclusion has been, and I confirmed this on the mailing list if you haven't seen this, that we're going to move ahead unified properties and path vector for now and exclude cellular addresses for now, just to make progress. And as chair, I really support this decision. Like I said, we want to finish some milestones. We can always then add cellular addresses as an extension later on. And Sabine is going to present on cellular addresses today. Dawn is presenting this one, and so here again, I think we're very close to working class call, so I will focus the discussion on how close are we to working class call on these documents. This is basically a slide because Martin and Sebastian cannot present you today on cross-domain server discovery. I've mentioned everything here on this slide already. We have a new version from our perspective as chairs. I'm speaking for the chairs now, and from the authors, all comments have been addressed. And we as chairs think this is ready for working class call. So we will start a working class call on this document soon after the IETF meeting. Any other business? Any more business? We have lots of business. No, I see no objections. I asked about the agenda, nobody bashed it. So I think we're good to go. First presentation is from Brian, who is chairing the PAN-RG. And without any further ado, what is the PAN-RG and what's the relation to ALTO? Brian, I think you will talk about this, so I will shut up. Let's see if I can find your slides.
Overlap with PAN-RG down here.
Overlap, yeah. Okay, again, view, full screen. Awesome. All right.
All right, so hi, I'm Brian Trammell. I'm the co-chair of the Path-Aware Networking Proposed Research Group. We will have a meeting on Wednesday, I believe, or is it Tuesday? Tuesday. Wednesday. It's Tuesday.
Chair, you should know. Check the agenda, Chair, man.
Yeah, I should go fast. We're gonna have a meeting. Have a look at the have a look at the agenda to figure out where it is. That's how I know where I'm supposed to go. I think it's on Tuesday because Tuesday is the I'm sharing everything day. Okay. Real quick, what is Path-Aware Networking? Why do we have a research group? Why do we care about this? So an internet networking architecture is path-aware if it explicitly exposes information about the paths to the endpoints that are sending the traffic, that are making the connections, and it allows endpoints to have control over paths over which their traffic will be sent. You can't really say that the current internet architecture is path-aware, which is why we have a research group on this. It's not, something that exists yet. We're trying to see if it makes sense to bring into existence. But there are a lot of IETF technologies that could be used to sort of take what we have right now and add path awareness to it. And that's why I think this might be interesting for ALTO. Next slide, please. Why would we want to do this, other than it's fun and research is interesting? So there's been a lot of stuff done in the transport area on multipath transports that really only applies in cases where you have multiple connectivity to the internet through diverse interfaces. If you had the ability to control the paths which traffic would take, you could do that even if you were singly connected. So you could actually run multipath transports in more diverse areas. We'd like it to look at alternate architectures for routing these sorts of things, for deciding how traffic goes from one place to another, and the trustworthiness of that information, right? Like, so when you have BGP, the only questions of trust are between the peers in a BGP session. Expanding that back out gives you other ways to route traffic. We'd like to experiment as well with cooperative signaling as a question of sort of path properties and path selection. So how do you tell what you want to the network, and how do you get information about what the network can provide? And this is where the overlap with Alto comes. We have a few questions that we're looking at. Next slide. Almost all of the ones that are Alto, that are interesting to Alto, are on this first bit. So how do we define and represent the properties of paths, right? So a lot of sort of the information that is available from Alto is about the properties of something that you can connect over. We don't see these as sort of cost maps. We see these more as properties of singular paths for the network. How do you get endpoints access to trustworthy information about the path properties? So Alto has done this in certain cases for servers, getting information about the cost map out to the server. And then how do you have control over paths selected? This gets a little bit more into things that are sort of outside so the Alto area. I think Alto has done a lot of work that can help us answer these top two questions. So there's some interface questions that's actually in TAPS, that's the thing that's on Wednesday. So if you're interested in this larger question, I would say also come to the TAPS working group.
Sorry, just for the record, I just looked it up. The PNRG is on Tuesday afternoon, 13:30.
One of my many guesses was correct.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, Tuesday afternoon, right after lunch.
Correct.
So next slide. This is where we get into the science fiction. So here, these are questions of, once you have sort of the primitives for getting information about paths to the endpoints and having the endpoints express the paths that should be used for certain traffic, how does that interact with the whole architecture? So, how would we have to redesign transport layer protocols to work most effectively? So right now, the transport layer protocols don't really take into account anything about the path that they don't measure themselves, and the measurement is very basic. It's RTT loss. How does this differ when you talk about applying it to tunnel and overlay endpoints? And this is very interesting when you get into questions of how you would actually build a network like this. Like, the way that we build anything new is we build it in tunnels first, and then we hope that we're going to replace the tunnels with something else, and then never do. And then there are questions about operation and deployment that we are also looking to address.
Yeah, there is a comment on Miteco here.
Yes.
From BJ Gurbani.
Hi, BJ.
Are there any real-world measurements of how devices are using multipath, some academic or white paper studies?
Larger scale measurements would be people who already had larger scale deployments. So that's an Ask Apple question, I think. But yeah, they're famously talkative when it comes to real world data. So no, I think it's all been largely sort of the 3 or 4 groups that have done a lot of work on multipath stuff so far that have done the measurement there.
But thanks, Brilliant, for relaying the question.
Thanks for the relay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is basically kind of an ad. I figured that this would be useful to some of the people in this room, or interesting to some of the people in this room, especially with respect to the top 2 questions on the previous slide. I think there's been a lot of work in Alto that could sort of inform that. So please come by on Tuesday afternoon at 1:30. Do you know where it is?
Where it is. Sorry. I just dropped the Safari browser. It's in Buckingham.
In Buckingham.
The room Buckingham, not the palace, right?
Yes.
Room Buckingham.
Yeah, the room Buckingham. Don't go to the palace. The Queen will be upset with you. Okay.
Richard Young from Yale. So a quick question. Do you assume somehow already the path already fixed for the network, or you assume actually the path not fixed yet? So therefore, you discover properties, therefore you can compute the path. So when you say path, I might have interpreted, for example, already.
So it's another control loop, right? So we don't assume the fixedness of the paths, right? That's actually a really good question.
Okay.
In terms of, because anytime you start building a an architecture like this or protocols that operate like this, you now have the endpoints trying to figure out where they're going to route their traffic, and you then have the network that's doing its own traffic engineering. So you have this competing control loop problem.
Yes.
If something like this is to work, then there has to be a way to get those control loops to interoperate or to talk to each other. Right.
Yes. Convergence or whatever.
Yes,
So,
right, yeah.
so,
So it needs to converge. So that is, we know that's an engineering problem that we'll have to address.
Okay.
But yeah, as of right now, there's this, the assumption is not that the paths will always remain static because we know it won't happen. But it's also not that you're going to put a couple of magic bits on your packet and it's going to cause a new BGP advertisement to happen somewhere, just because that's not realistic.
Rafael, University of Campinas. Just curious, there's a network slice group as well.
Yes.
Are you going to talk about also cross-reference with them? How close are?
Possibly. I don't know what the network slicing people are actually doing yet, because network slicing is a very large sort of thing, and I think they have a smaller focus. But yeah, actually, I should at least liaise that up the list. Thank you.
Yes. Say again. Oh,
Oh.
your name, please. Sorry, your name again for the note takers. Rafael, and second name? Last. Okay, so I mean, otherwise check offline. No problem. Thank you, Brian. Because we have a tight agenda, I think.
Please throw me off the stage.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think we should
All right. So
continue
thank
with
you very
the
much, and hope to see you tomorrow.
next presentation. Yes, I mean, as chair, I can see the relationship is very clear. So yeah, I think folks should check out the meeting tomorrow. Okay, let's continue with the first ALTO document, ALTO Unified Properties. Dawn, let's see if I can find the slides. That's wrong. So this is Unified Properties. Yes, please go ahead.
So first I have to thank Brian for the sharing ideas from the PNID. So next we'll continue from the updates of the property map. So the main updates from the 100 interim meeting to this 101 meeting includes the following. Minor changes may be that we change the document title from the extensible unified property map to the unified properties. And more exchanges are made the following: that we remove the section any domain and its related domain registry totally from this document. More details and discussions will be in the next slides. Then we add and clarified and handling from across the whole document. This will include, maybe what the server will return to the client if the client has entities not supported by the server, and what will the server return to the client if the client has input that are in the wrong format of the domain-specific entity addresses. First, we have clarified the relationship between the auto domain registry and the auto address type registry, which is defined in the base protocol. This question, actually, this problem is raised and continually discussed in the mailing list. I believe most of you may be familiar with this one. The last is that we also update section 7, the examples, including the following. That is, we highlight a little bit the benefit of using unified properties over using the standard endpoint property service to present the properties of the endpoints. This section is defined in 7.2, I suppose. Yeah. Another change is that we may need to add example of the PID domain and remove examples using the ANE domain example. It will be in the next version, I suppose. So next slide. So since we have already removed ANE domain from this document, where do we need to place it? It is not a specific problem, but a more general one, I suppose. So because it's not only the AN domain, we have quite a few new emergent domains like the CDN of CI footprints defining CDNI and the ACGI domain, I suppose, defining the cellular addresses. So two choices. Do we need to put all these new emergent domains in this document, or these new emergent domains will be put separately in their own documents? Actually, we prefer to put them in their own documents for the following reason, that we need to make this document a minimal framework. And the reasons that we need to define such as the PID domain, IPv4 domain, and IPv6 domain in this document is that they are actually quite elegantly defined. However, others might are still in development. So they might change and not so stable.
Yes, so as chair, if I may intervene, I like this approach. For the obvious reasons. I mean, I just said we want to move the milestones ahead as soon as possible. So from the progress perspective, I agree.
Yeah, another point is that actually, I think if you put all the new emergent domains in this document, it just seems like more supporting examples to show that how powerful this design is.
Right. I mean, we have this in many working groups, these discussions, dependencies and things, and there's always trade-offs, but I think in this case, you raised some good arguments, but also from the chair perspective that we want to make progress, I think it's a better choice here to move this one ahead, and the documents will then, the other proposals will later on, add their stuff in their drafts.
Yeah.
Correct.
So another discussion problem is that what's the relationship between the auto domain registry and auto address type registry. As we see that the concept of the domain are more general than the address types. For example, address types can be IPv4, IPv6, but we can have IPv4 domain and IPv6 domain, so we include them. Besides, we have the AN domain, ECGI domain, PID domain, so it is a more generic idea than the auto address type registry. But they still have some relationships, so so we needed to study what attributes are to be defined in the auto domain registry and auto address type registry. To deal with the consistent issue between these two registries, we have two possible solutions. One is that they will be merged automatically. That means when you define a new domain, if it applies to the address type, so you may need to define all the attributes that is not only related to the domain, but also related to the address type. So when you put this domain in the domain registry, the address type registry will be automatically generated. Another approach is that we will need to deal with it manually. That is, the dependency will not be automatically generated. So you have to do maybe twice. You have to the first you have to define a new domain according to its semantics, and you have to define a separate auto address type registry according to its definition. But you may need to specify that whether they have any types of relationship or what their relationship might be.
Yeah, so before we go on, I mean, we should have a small discussion on this. I have a question first, a technical question. So auto consistency, if you choose that option and you have somebody who has a domain that doesn't really match the IP addresses, or there is no consistency actually, you could always create a new dummy domain for whatever IP addresses you have, right? No?
You mean you put a dummy address into the address registry, or was it the other way around?
Well, either way, no?
Oh, okay. So,
So that's my question, actually, yeah.
how you answer it?
Do you mean that if I put a domain that is not related to the address type?
Well, correct. Or let's say I have some addresses that are not really, a one-to-one match to a domain. I could always create a new domain, no?
I think the current design, so the current design is we want every single address to be a domain. We believe that's correct. So that every single address type will be a domain. Okay. The only problem is the other way around. For example, APID is not really address type. It's like, for example, or abstract network elements. It's another address type. Or they can be still considered address type, but they may not be really like a traditional way of address type. Okay. They are not locators.
Yeah, okay. No, I see. So that was my technical question. From a process perspective, what do the authors prefer? That's question number one. And other comments from the room? Do people have opinions?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
basically,
sure.
I think right now the authors trying to really go down the path of second one manual consistency, but we're not. We're wondering if there's any expertise from the IETF working group and or IETF, IESG to really guide the process. If one which is subset another one, you need to register for both. And what's the process? Do you have like an automatic registration in one and trigger registration in another one? I guess that's really a question for IA. And
yeah, that's a question I guess I also cannot answer at this time. The question is, how do we move forward? Do we just choose manual consistency, move this ahead, and see what kind of feedback we get from the ISG? I mean, that's
a good idea.
I mean, that works for me. If that's what the authors prefer, I don't see anybody in the room raising strong opinions. In the interest of moving things ahead, I'm just saying, why don't we? I agree with you. That's an interesting question, but I also cannot answer it. And
yeah, we could, for example, go to INA and get the feedback, but probably can just first go down the menu path.
Okay.
Second one.
Thank you. I think Boje has a comment from Meet Echo.
So Sebastian Kiesel is wondering, would your proposal mean updates to the base protocol of RFC 7285?
I don't hear it clearly, sorry.
So the question is, would your proposal mean updates to the base protocol RFC 7285?
I think it's a new mechanism to provide the properties.
No, let me answer. So the question is, we are not changing the base protocol, right. And the base protocol has a actual type registry. We're only updating that registry with INA. We're not going to touch the base protocol.
Correct. I think that's also my understanding. Yes, I would have answered the same way.
Yes, it just justifies the relationship between the address type registry in the auto base protocol.
Sebastian, does that answer your question, or maybe there's some other insight? I don't know if you can still hear the question.
No, but I think that answers the question. I think that Sebastian understands. I'm pretty sure. Okay.
So VJ is saying we probably need to speak to the AD or to IANA to see what is preferable. There are two issues. A, what makes sense technically, and B, what is the view of the AD's IANA editors on how to handle this?
Correct. No, I mean, I agree. So when I was saying we need to move this forward, we can either just do it and get the feedback that way, or seek the feedback ahead of time. And I think BJ is proposing that. That's fine with me. I think in the interest of moving ahead, we have a lot of presentations. Let's move ahead. But this is an issue we need to clarify with Jana and ADs, what's possible, what they suggest. Yes.
There is another comment from Sebastian.
Of course.
Here.
Go ahead, please.
In other words, if I do not care for your document for some reason and just want to register something according to the rules in 7285, do I have to care?
I guess the answer is no, you don't have to care. Correct? And Richard is agreeing.
If you don't want to use this document, use the extension, and you will get the services as defined in RFC 7285, I think. Yeah.
Okay, then we have K Gao.
Yes, there are different services actually.
Okay, K Gao, I think do because others may use the address to look up properties from the unified property map, unless you don't really want them to.
Yeah, that's a comment. Yeah. Okay. So next slide, I guess we continue, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I will appreciate if you can provide any comments or ideas or opinions on the above discussion. Yeah, we will need your feedback. And if the other one is that we will make continuous progress towards the working group last call. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Don, I think you're done. Thank you. As chair, from my perspective, you make good progress. You updated the document, addressed several comments. We just have one main outstanding issue right now, the one we just discussed.
Yeah.
So let's try in the following weeks to clarify this. I mean, we should have mailing list discussion with BJ, maybe involve also Mirja and Jana in this, see what is their advice, and then we can move. As soon as we have a decision, have some advice from guys who know better, we can make a decision and move this ahead. So we just have one outstanding issue. That's from chair's perspective, that's great.
Yeah, just want to add one more comment would be essentially, except this issue, I believe this document is very well polished. So therefore, it's ready.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. I totally agree. And as chairs, we've discussed this. I think this document is ready for working class call, but of course we cannot do it until we have solved this issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I will still stay here.
You're the next presenter as well.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm the chair. I should be on top of things. So, well, and it says here Richard Young is presenting on SSE. So, but she is, right? Yeah, no, sorry. Path Vector is next. Sorry. No, sorry. Path Vector is next. Okay, please, Dawn, go ahead.
So the path vector updates are the following 3 points. So the first point is that it might be minor that we made a lot of text edits and something like clarification of the use case. Example, you may go over this document and you will find the differences. So another much major more is that the structure of the whole document is almost reorganized. We made clear the 3 building blocks in the design overview section. You can find it in section 4. So with 3 much clean building blocks with a new cost type, a new domain, and what is the consistency mechanism that we could use to support the consistent information of the path vector and the ANE elements in the path vector. What are their properties? So following these 3 building blocks, we reorganize the document with 1 section for each design. We have introduced a new cost type, which is already quite mature and discussed in last meeting. And we have defined a new domain that is AN domain. As you know, it is moved from the unified properties. And we have to talk about the consistency mechanisms that we used to encode the path vector and its related properties. Next, please. So AN domain, as you can search for the section 6, it's specified with the with the domain name, what is the domain specific entity addresses, and does it have any inherent hierarchy or inheritance rule. And related to this one, you can find AN domain registration. It is registered in the auto domain registry and specified in the section 11.3. Next, please. The most important one is to deal with the consistency mechanism. If you're looking for the relationship, maybe some similarity between the auto cost maps and property maps. What's the cost? What is the relationship between the cost map and the property map? You may refer to the relationship of the network map and the cost map, but they did have some differences, and which is a major one. actually, for the relationship between the cost map and the network map, cost map will depend on the network map, but network map is independent of the cost map. So it is like a unidirectional dependency. However, for path vector and property maps, it looks more like a bidirectional dependencies. Because the ANE network elements in path vector, their properties will depend on the unified properties. However, the generation of the properties of the ANEs will depend on the query of the cost map. So it has a much stronger coupling issue. And we actually we look for the multi-part services to deal with this issue, but also actually encounter some problems. Yeah, if you want to use these two services separately, you may need to put in the you may need to get the response of the endpoint cost map and then use these responses, the returned ANEs, to put it in the query input of the property maps. So how to deal with such relationship or how to deal with such operations is a new issue to be dealt, and we are seeking for some solutions or just so, yeah.
So the question is, you say you're looking for solutions, you have...
Can I clarify? I don't think we're looking for solutions. We have solutions. We're just looking for decisions.
Right.
Probably that's better word.
Okay, so you have a preferred solution, again?
Oh, we sent out an email right before. We want people to think a little bit on a really hard problem. I don't know if any expertise here would have any strong feeling about which design. So basically is what I call absorption embedding and versus independent embedding, which one people prefer. So they are actually very fundamental essential program language problems as well. So one is independent and one is non-independent. So which one do we prefer as in IETF? I think right now the current design is we go down the path of independent in the sense that we're using multi-part. Basically, we allow objects to live alone by themselves. We're composing the multi-part compose. The second one, probably the people are taking like in young language. And essentially now you take this language type, you take this type, and you merge it into a newer type. And we slightly don't like that because that would break our protocol, but we can go down that path. So we're just seeking the advice from the working group.
Okay. Anybody want to comment right now? Okay, then I guess we have to have this discussion on the mailing list, and hopefully we can come to a solution soon. Yeah.
Right. I do want to add one comment. Actually, we're really lucky that we have removed the ANE domain from unified property, so therefore there's no dependency between unified property and its document. So therefore, the unified property document can move along by itself.
Again, as chair, I support that. Anything that makes progress gets my support. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's the next steps.
Right.
So that's all.
I guess we clarified this. Thank you, Don. Yeah, we need to see if we can resolve this issue as soon as possible. But of course, you just raised it right pretty close to the meeting. We should have some discussion on the mailing list. Yeah. But from the chair perspective, again, I think this is very close to working class call. We just have one main issue that we need to resolve. So that's good. We thank the authors for moving this forward. So next up is Richard. By the way, I'm fully aware that we are behind schedule, but as I mentioned before, we really want to have discussions on or get a feeling of how close we are to working class call on the milestones. So I'm intentionally giving enough time on our working group items and on the milestones. After we are done with all the working group items, I have to make a check how much time we have, and then probably we cut all the other presentations in half or something. We have to see, but that's on purpose. I'm aware that we are a little bit behind schedule, but yeah.
Okay.
So the next one is, let me look at the agenda. What's the next one?
Increment updates using
SSE, right? Yeah.
Okay. So let me start. So I'm presenting the SSE increment updates, and we think this is a very cool document. And right now it's getting almost ready. and there are only like 1 or 2 very small issues we want to get feedback, and I think we can wrap up. So what we have done is between the interim meeting and this IETF is we made a lot. Basically, even though the design is very stable, when we read the document very carefully, we found a bunch of text which you can revise forever, I guess. And here's what we did, and we did a lot of revision to achieve consistency. Basically, all text editing, a lot of text editing, and editing part is the terms. So we introduced a new terms section, and we think eventually maybe the IETF review would cause issues. Therefore, we introduced the terms section. We changed all the examples to use a single example. We have like 2 or 3 examples in the document. We said, why don't we have 2 examples or 3 examples? Why don't we switch to a single example? So therefore, now we're using a single example and go across the whole document. So I think that's a very nice, that's very clean. And also we change the section structure. Basically, we have JSON patch and we have merge patch. Their section structure slightly different. And we did not like it, and we changed them to be consistent. So therefore, those are the major changes. And then what we did was we clarified the data update choices, because that's one of the major new capabilities in the document. Therefore, we want to clarify this one as much as we can. And then we clarify on the requirements. So we did have a few requirement words. We started to go over like must, should, and really clarify all this stuff very nicely. And which I'll give you some examples. Next slide, please. So here is for people who did not read the document, or who, for example, here even read it. We clarify the words for a lot. So therefore, let me give you some like really high-level overview. And now we call the whole thing is the increment update will consist of set of update streams. And each upstream will have a set of data update messages and a set of control update messages. We obviously update. And then one thing we did, which is a major change, is now we call it an update message. Data update message can be a full replacement update message, or can be an incremental change update message. We used to say incremental update message. Now we think update really means the bigger things, because a full replacement is also update, and now increment change also update. So therefore, why don't we be symmetric? Let's call them equally. So therefore, we change everything increment update to increment change. If you don't like it, tell us. But otherwise, essentially, we want to achieve kind of symmetry. So therefore, now like much cleaner. You don't have any ambiguity. So that's one major change.
Not to interrupt, but I've been following this discussion also on the mailing list, or somebody sent an email explaining all this. I like the word stream, and I think this is a clear semantics now. I think it's good.
Great, wonderful. And then the second major thing is we talk about how to make choices. And it turns out actually making choices, in the previous document, we only said, okay, it's the server's responsibility to decide how you push the increment updates. And it turns out actually it's more subtle, so therefore we want to essentially bring out all the subtlety a little more in the document, so therefore to help the designer of the server. And for example, here is, I don't know if you can read it on the red column, that's a newer version. I realized actually often all kind of new subtleties. For example, one subtlety is if you're using JSON merge patch, and if you put a new value to be null, actually that means this attribute will be removed. That's really unfortunate, or unfortunately whatever depends on your point of view. But that basically means if you want to change, for example, an attribute value to be null instead of undefined, actually JSON merge patch will not work. So therefore we make it very clear. So we mean, okay, the server should consider the limitations of your choices. JSON patch, merge patch, I think that actually should have interest to general IETF, but that's the thing we made it very clear. Next slide, please. And also we update about the data update choices, and now we really give a little bit more guidance about if you want to choose between full replacement versus increment changes. And if you have increment changes, which one should you use, JSON merge patch or JSON patch? We give all kind of like a guidance. I think that we hope that will be very helpful, and I think we all clarify a lot in terms of this document. Great. And one more thing is clarify with stuff, because given from my personal experience, when you go to IESG, they really always ask a question about all these must, should, and recommend. So we start to clarify all kind of requirements. And for example, we change all the uses, we add all these masses, and we use all the capital. And also one more thing, really requirement is about the future auto service. We want this increment updates to be reusable across as future as possible, futuristic as possible. But unfortunately, there's a major issue we realized is for the increment updates, unfortunately, both JSON patch and merge patch, they can support is only a single JSON object. That's their requirement. Essentially, it's a single object, and if you want to patch it, it's a single object. Unfortunately, that means that would be a requirement for all the future. If you want to have an increment updates for a system, and you only have to essentially encode the whole thing as a single object. Otherwise, JSON patch, merge patch will not even apply. So I think that's a decision we made, and we're not going to make any major changes. We said, okay, let's go down with it, and the assumption, and maybe in the future, people can come with a newer patch algorithms, for example, can apply to multiple parallel top-level objects, but we're not going down this path. For progress, we decided to go down this simpler approach.
You have my full support.
Okay. Okay, so that's essentially all and all of them. And now let me just raise the issue for the last final touch point for this design. And this is only, for example, for this incremental update, actually a generic problem. So let me describe the problem a little bit, and let's get feedback and get opinions from the experts of this working group. The problem is following. We're using HTTP. And HTTP essentially is, of course, before 2.0, it's a unidirectional protocol, and a client sends a request, and the server will give you a response. So therefore, in our incremental update stream, and if you want to send a request, for example, control, for example, add a new stream, we have to use a separate channel because there's no way from the same HTTP to send a request to the server. So therefore, we send a request to the server using a separate channel. And now the problem is, how can the server will tell the client that this one is success? For example, you want to remove a stream. You can send a request from the client to the server and success, give you 200 successful, but you don't know if this request has been processed or not because that's a separate channel. And oftentimes they probably run even different threads or even different processes. How do we handle this issue? So therefore, currently there are two ways to notify success. And one is notified from the client, from the control channel. And second one is also the server can notify outcome in the update stream, in the data channel, two channels, multiple channels. And this essentially want to have very nice thing problem in the transport layer protocol. And there are two designs. And of course, we can also have a third design option, which combination of two. The current draft actually essentially is using a combination, version 3. We want to get the feedback from working groups that if that's good or bad, and if there's no strong objection, we're going to keep the current draft. But if not, and of course, it's essentially you can go down either 1 or 2 or go down 3. For example, if you want to go down only 1, and server probably only say, for example, like typical Amazon AWS service, you submit a request, and the Amazon server will say, okay, in progress. And then you probably respond another way and so on. But at the moment, we're using 3 to notify in both channels. Control channel, essentially it's in the thing and in the data channel. So that's current design. Feedback.
Yeah, any comments from the working group?
From experts on
this
design.
issue?
Yes.
John, please.
Oh, okay.
John Peterson, I'm not an expert in HP design, but surely we should just ask one, right? I mean,
Say again? Sorry?
surely we should just ask one, right?
Ask an HTTP
Yeah,
expert.
let's go MT and like ask MT what he thinks. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure
Just
there's
email
not-
to them, I guess, all experts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Good idea. Do that.
Yeah.
Like essentially design pattern or whatever, just make it, for example, make it a conventional and
Right.
people probably debate.
I see no other people who want to speak up in the room, so I assume there are no objections. But John is correct. Let's ask some expert if option 3, for some reason, is not, proper design from an HTTP perspective. Correct.
Or they have their own design patterns, which feel which one's better.
Right.
We do have, like I said, this is a common issue. Not like
So, Richard, I assume you and your co-authors will take care of this request guidance from HTTP experts.
yes, we'll do that in the next couple of days.
All right. Yeah, it's a good idea to maybe even do this on site here, just face to face.
Yes.
Right.
I'll do that.
Correct. Okay.
Okay.
So again, thank you very much for the presentation. Again, I think we, as chairs, are correct that this is very close to working group last call. And you agree, I think?
Yes, I agree. I think this is very well polished already.
Right. So we as chairs agree. So actually, if I go back, you just presented clarifications and updates. So this is the only issue, if you will. So I really encourage you maybe use the time here at the meeting to clarify this with some HTTP experts, and then we can really move this ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Good suggestion.
Great. So I'm looking at the agenda. So now is Sean presenting, and I think he wants to present remotely. I hope this works. Huh? Right. Mirja, how does it... Okay. I should press a button? Ah, this one. Okay. This is awesome. This is cool. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, great.
This is working.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see you very well. Everybody
Hello.
in the room, can I get a whoop whoop?
Whoa.
Whoop whoop. We can see you. Great. So,
Nice to meet you all.
So I will show you slides, and then you can speak in parallel. Let me just
Okay.
load the slides. CDNI.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Lin, and today I'm going to talk about the current status of AutoCDN FCI map draft. And then let's start from a summary of the changes. The first one is we rename CDNI FCI auto service to the CDNI FCI map. The second one is we introduce the precise definition for the CDNI FCI map. The third one is we refine the filter on capabilities. And the first one is we refine filter on footprints. And we made extensive refinements to the examples. And also we add IANA considerations. Next slides, please. We add the schema of the CDNI FCI map response, and we make the definition structure of it consist with other already defined maps. And there are two notes. One is that the definition structure is the same as the other one, and we need to make clear that the CDNI FCI map data definition is defined by CDNI, not auto. Hence, it's normative. Next slide, please. And we clarified the schematic of the filtered CDNI FCI map. It is given some capabilities, which footprint have at least one of these capabilities. So for the query in the left-hand side, only capabilities with footprint constraint in the red rectangle will be returned in the right-hand side, because they all have the HTTP 1.1 delivery protocol capabilities. Next slide, please. And next, we consider the error handling of this query. The missing field error will cover the cases only capability type or only capability value, or the value of the capability value is null. And the invalid field value will cover the value of capability value is inconsistent with capability type. And there are two special cases. Special cases here means that these cases are not errors. The special case one is that if CDNI FCI capability is null, or the value of it has no elements, the auto server will return the related full CDNI FCI map. And the second one is if the capability type is not defined, the auto server will ignore this capability while return the remaining result. Next slide, please.
Yes, before we go on to the next slide, I'm a co-author of this, so speaking as individual, just for the working group, as a reminder, you know, we are introducing something, well, a new map now, we call it map now, a new type of, we used to call it ALTO service, and one of the things that was an open issue was the error handling, and the question was if the traditional ALTO RFC 7285 you know, has enough error messages, and here are some where this is, I think, a key progress on this document. So please continue, Sean.
Okay, next slide. Thank you. And here we introduce the new footprint type auto network map, and we update the encoding of auto network map footprint. Below is an example. First, we add the dependent VTAG field here, so that in the right-hand side, this CDNI FCI map is depend on my EO net maps. And then from the right-hand side, the bottom of the right-hand side, we can see that we use the PID Germany and the South France as the footprints. Next slide, please.
Again, here, just a short add-on. From the beginning, I mean, I've been pushing this for a long time, and from the beginning, I thought ALTO ALTO network maps was the natural choice to express footprints. So here we have, it used to be an example, but here we have now a clear way of doing this. This doesn't mean that there couldn't be other footprints, but obviously, using an ALTO network map makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So, and we add the IANA consideration. First, we register a new CDNI metadata footprint type auto network map, and then we register two entities domain. One is ANE, and the other one is ASN, and the other is the country code. And finally, we also add an auto CDNI FCI property type, CDNI FCI capabilities. Next slide, please. And here we want to clarify two items. The first one is the media type of CDNI FCI map and the filtered CDNI FCI map. The current media type of them is application CDNI, and we plan to change it to application auto CDNI FCI map JSON to be correct. A general problem arises here is that should we use the import embedding? This is the current approach, or we maybe need a modular embedding. This need a new approaches such as the multi-part, which is tabled for now. And the other clarification items is the data components name of CDNI FCI map and the filtered CDNI FCI map. And the currently design is CDNI FCI/map, and we propose to change it to CDNI/FCI/map, so that it could consist with the network map, cost map, and endpoint cost map. Next slide, please. So for the next step, we welcome more reviews, and I think when this draft is ready, we will go to the working group last call. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. As chair, I can say we want to move this ahead towards working class call as soon as possible, of course. So I think this document has made good progress. Individually speaking, as co-author, I think we are not quite there yet. We need maybe to polish here and there. But as far as I can tell, and maybe you can comment, there are no current outstanding major issues like we had on the other documents, right? We don't have any major issues that need feedback from the working group, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Good. So I think we just need to polish here and there, and then I think this has made a good step forward. Any comments from the room? Any questions? Okay. So thank you for presenting the update. Again, I think this has made good progress. And yeah, let's see how soon we can get it to working last call. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next on the agenda is now the first document, Sabine, right? That is not a working group item yet, or does not address the core milestones. I'm looking at the time. So you're supposed to start at 40, right? And we are about 10 minutes behind our schedule. So I would ask every one of the remaining 5 presentations, basically everybody has 2 minutes less, right? So everybody has 6 minutes. I'm sorry for this, but we have a full and packed agenda, and I think everybody agrees that the milestones and working group items were very important. So yeah, please go ahead. I try to find the slides. So this is cellular address, correct? Correct. Yes, please.
Okay, so this proposal was discussed already some time ago. So I will focus here on what relates this work to actually the unified property draft. Actually, the main discussion there, the outcome was that it really stresses the need to harmonize and to specify rules in the ALTO entity domain registry and the relation to the ALTO address type registry. So next slide, please. Okay, so the updates in the current version, so they expose the suitability of the proposed so-called ECGI domain for both the address type registry and the address entity domain registry. And so the placeholder to specify these consistency features is the unified property draft. So as already discussed today, the decision is that the unified property draft will stress on new ALTO information services such as the property map and how to propose and specify a new address entity registry, entity domain registry, and how to really be rigorously making the difference of the relation with address type. So in this version, there is a new section 3 on cellular addresses. So it relates both registries. So the motivation I already told is because cells can be either endpoints on which you want to query properties, as in the base protocol, or they can be entities on which to query property maps, filtered or not. So the section explains how the base protocol and the unified property draft both provide the background to allow to register new domain types such as ECGI, where ECGI stems from the 3GPP terminology. By the way, this work actually stems back from IETF to 2014. In Honolulu, I guess it was already proposed. But in the meantime, the use cases have been progressing and we are going towards 5G. So we want to have, we see the interest into using that to expand also beyond only IPv6 or IPv4 networks. Next slide. So in this version, so the section 6 IANA consideration was filled as well, again upon the working group discussion. And I think the text that I quote here should be updated with respect to the progress that is done in the IANA section of the Unified Property Draft. I won't go into details. Next slide. And so the further discussions will be on harmonizing those two, the IANA sections in those two drafts. Also, I would like to have a discussion on what is the placeholder for new address types or new entity domains. Okay, we know it's the ALTO address type registry and ALTO entity domain registries. We already discussed how to about the manual harmonization or automatic harmonization. But in general, the question would be, how do we collect all the ALTO registry updates? Because reading the unified property draft or the base protocol gives you no hint on the existence of other. So do we really want to go through the whole, to all the ALTO drafts that propose extensions and find out that somewhere there is a new domain or a new address type? So the proposal is to give a hint in the unified property of the fact that there are currently new domain types or entity domains that are being proposed and specified. Next slide. And yeah, so basically that's it. The plans for the next section is to further work on that IANA section and post our discussions. Thank you.
It's okay. Richard Young, quick comment. I think I think they found all these new address types and domains by looking at the two registries, right? I think there's this website where you can look it up and see where they are registered. Is that really the question you're asking in your further discussion? Slide number 5.
Well, actually, yeah, I agree. We know the official placeholder. Maybe the formulation was not so clear in my slide.
Okay.
Actually, the issue would be how to, if we focus on working group documents, their goal is to specify how you define the information service, how you use it. So that's the focus now. That's the option chosen now.
Okay.
But on the other hand, I kind of miss something that makes people find out that there is such and such. For example, how, if I could, for example, only be interested in the unified properties.
Okay.
So how can I find out that there is something that like A&E, for example? So
You're looking for some kind of reverse index, I guess.
sorry?
Reverse index.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, then thank you. In the interest of time, we move on to the next presentation, which is Danny and broker, alto-based broker system multi-domain orchestration, correct? Correct. Let me find that one. Are these the correct slides?
Yes, correct.
Hold on, this is 00. I hope I am using the, you sent an update, right? No, maybe not, but I confused two of the, that's fine. I think this is the correct one. View. Okay, please, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Danny from the University of Campinas, and today I'm going to talk about the use of the Alto services in the context of multi-domain orchestration. Please. First, I will talk. First, I will talk about a little bit about the multi-domain orchestration. After, I will present our proposed approach, and finally, I will introduce some Alto extension in order to support the main functionalities in our proposed architecture. Please, next, please. Current and future 5G network scenarios call for a broader cooperation between stakeholders in order to provide flexible multi-domain, multi-operator services. This operation will require the information exchange across multi-domain orchestrators, NDOs. The key information to be exchanged includes the abstract network topology, resource availability, and the orchestrator entry points between different administrative domains. However, the multi-domain orchestrator faces different challenges. For example, the lack of abstraction in order to discover and adequately represent the resource and topology information, and the discovery of candidate autonomous system in order to provide the requirements for an end-to-end network service request, and another challenges. Next, please. Based on this context and challenges, or a proposed approach is to create a federation networking paradigm where a broker plane works on the top of the management and orchestration plane, whose the main goal is to discover resource and topology information from different administrative domains in the federation, and or design resource on the Alto services to offer abstract network maps with a simplified view, get enough information about multi-domain orchestrator involved in the federation. Next, please. Here we can see our proposed architecture, where the broker component is conceived to be working as a coordinator between a set of multi-domain orchestrator, whose the main components are the inter-domain resource in order to create a hierarchical database with the inter-domain resource information, inter-domain topology component to create a hierarchical traffic engineering database, and an Alto server use the information collected for the inter-domain resource and inter-domain topology to create abstract maps. Well, for example, the property map can be used in order to have a clear global view of the resource offered for different multi-domain orchestrator, and a cost map can be used to obtain connectivity information. For example, a patch vector with the AES level topological distance between source and destination multi-domain orchestrators. This example can be supported with some extension to the Alto-based protocol. Next, please. In case of the property map, the Alto server must return multiple values for each property in the property map. In this case, the response specification was extended for each property map name defined in the resource capability list. The corresponding property value must be encoded as a JSON array instead of a JSON string. Next, please. Here we have an example where the Alto client wants to retract the entry property map for PIDs entities with the entry point, CPU, memory, storage, and a list of service access points or ports, and a list on network functions. Next. And in case of the cost map, the Alto server must provide connectivity information for every service graph link in a service graph path for an end-to-end requirement. This information is the AF level topological distance in the form of a patch vector. In this map, the asset input parameter specification was extended. For example, the required filtered cost map support a service graph with a formatted body as a network function forwarding graph object. This NFFG object includes a set of network function, a set of service access point, a set of logical interconnection between network function, service access point, or both, and a list of end-to-end network service requirements. Next, please. And in the case of the response specification, the response for each service graph link in each end-to-end requirement must be encoded as a JSON array of JSON arrays of JSON strings. And as defined in the patch vector graph, is an Alto client sends a request and a set multipath related, the Alto server must provide associated property map information. Next. Here we have.
We are running out of time. Can you finish?
It's only to say it is an example for the filtered code map where we have an Alto client to request a patch vector. In this example, we have 3 network functions with 2 service access points and 4 links and end-to-end requirement. And in the next slide, it's only the response when we can see as next steps. The idea is to collect some information for the working group. That's it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Any quick comments?
Oh, quick
Yeah,
comments.
of course.
Okay. Because I think that's very cool. And the question is the following. We do have related work because you want actually not only networking, but also other resources. For example, CPU, right?
Yeah.
So the major problem we're working with this IBM with very large US Army and actually UK project is for CPUs, they get confused. So you have CPU, A would have CPU give it B, and A would have CPU to give it
You're
C.
saying CPUs get confused?
Oh, the computational resources,
Okay.
information can be confused.
That's interesting. Confused CPUs.
So
That's
you
cool.
have a domain A, use your broker, and give information to B, give information to C. And now when B and C give information to D, and it might both say, for example, have 5 units of computer storage. And now D might have 5, might have 10. So I think you're trying to solve that problem using your path vector. Is that the reasoning that you must include a whole path vector to declass, essentially to distinguish, have colors or labels of the computation? Is that really the reason you do this stuff? Or maybe that's a long question. Because yeah, it would be very nice. I'll talk to you offline. Yeah.
If you have something from Mitego,
Yeah.
okay.
Kwai Xiang, I don't know. Given a source destination pair, why it needs to discover all possible paths between of this pair to control the path? Question.
In one slide, when you return all the patch vector, you need to include all possible AF paths between source and destinations. Source and destination service graph link. I don't know if that was the response.
All right. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, if we have to move on, thank you. And of course, any more comments on the mailing list, that's certainly welcome. So we have 3 more presentations and 12 more minutes. So that makes it very simple. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So the remaining 3 presentations each get 4 minutes. First is Alto use case, research orchestration for multi-domain, geo-distributed data analysis. And this is, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So how many time is still left?
You have 4 minutes, sorry.
Okay, it's a challenge. So yeah, so from the last item interim meeting, we just have presented the uniform design and the implementation requirements and demonstrate early prototype in the supercomputing 17 and that one. Yeah. And actually, in this IETF101, we have submit a newest version, and it makes the substantial updates since the previous version. And our goal is to better prepare the document for the review from the working group. And we propose an auto extension to support the accurate, privacy preserving resource discovery from the different member networks. So maybe we can, next slide. You can see we have a lot of updates in this version, and include the background and design requirements and some design decisions and details. And maybe we cannot go to every details, but just next slide. This is the background. Next one. So from the background, we found that the multi-domain distributed data analysis system has such features. The both workload and the resource availabilities are highly dynamic. So based on these features, we conduct several design requirements in the next slide. And from the user aspect, we found we need to provide the performance predictability and the efficient resource sharing. And from the member networks aspect, we need to achieve the high resource utilization, and but we need to maintain the privacy and autonomy of the member networks. Also, we need to provide the capabilities. So next one. So we review some existing design of the many systems in our documents, and we found that this system cannot satisfy these requirements because they are lacking information model to support such a resource discovery precise. So next one. So in the Unicorn, our system, the fundamental design decision is to choose the auto as a resource information model for the several reasons, and cannot talk about the details. So just next slide. So we just use the current architecture of the Unicorn system, which including the auto server and client and some execution agent to take the task from the application and discover the resource from the different member networks. And which use the three-phase resource discovery process, and we will talk the details in the next slide. And at the first phase,
I think we're running out of time. I'm sorry.
Already.
So I mean, the slides are online in the data tracker. So if people want to have a detailed look, do you want to wrap up? Do you have a final slide where I can summary? Maybe that's a good.
Sure.
Way to finalize.
See the slides in the website. So Unicorn just provide a generic design for the large-scale multi-domain data center sort of organization, and the use case are listed in the auto working group charter. And we plan to submit a full paper to the Supercommittee 18, and we will perform the large-scale demonstration and the deployment just maybe by the IETF 103. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any quick comments right now? I mean, I've seen, obviously you put a lot of effort into updating this, so that's great. Obviously, it's not a charter item right now, so we have to see how we can move this forward. But thank you for the presentation. Are there any quick comments? Otherwise, to be fair, I would allocate another 4 minutes for the next two documents.
Sure.
So next one is...
Next one is the FCIs.
Which one? Flow-based?
Flow-based cost query,
And you're presenting as well?
Sure.
All right, great.
Sure, just next page.
Please go ahead. So
we just highlight the major update of the latest version of the FCS draft. We move the section 6 advanced flow-based query out of this document, and we change the auto address tab conflicts registry to the auto address tab compatibility registry, and the reason I will talk about in the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So before we talk about details, as a review, just to recall our requirements and the proposal of the FCS. Probably in the last IETF meeting, we just gave it. Yeah. Sure. So in this version of the draft, we just saw the remaining issue from the last IETF meeting. The first one, we want to solve how to achieve a unified query model, because we have two different model design options. And the other issue is how to resolve the flow attribute conflicts, because flow definition from the client request may be invalid. So we want to allow the server to notify this invalidity to the client as early as possible. So that's one. Yeah. So we have not found a unified query model to integrate all the design options, but we just compare the existing two design options, and you can see in the for the partial mesh source destination pairs, the design decision can achieve the better compatibility, and can reduce the request size, and it's extensible enough, and it's simple enough. Although it's the flexibility of this design decision is not better than another one, but we will introduce some address type, new address types to make it to support some use cases. Yeah, and I think it's enough. So next page. And this is a new address type we just introduced in this document. We use ETH to support maybe the layer 2 flows between the data center networks, and we use the domain to support the CDN use cases, and we use the TCP and UDP to encode the socket address, and it can support the flow level scheduling, and they are the major use cases we want to solve for the auto, and yeah, next one. So
I think again we have to wrap up. I'm sorry, because we have one more presentation.
Oh, no problem.
Do you want me to move to the yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Say again? Right. So right.
Okay.
So you want to wrap up? Yes, please.
Yeah. So maybe we want some comments from the working group later in the mailing list. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because we're running out of time, we refer any discussion to the mailing list. Regarding working group item, you know that we as chairs want to finish the milestones, so not at this time. Let's see what goes on after we finish the milestones with the working group. I see there's a lot of interest in new work, so we have to see, but not at this point in time. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So we have Kai presenting on alto path vector compression, and maybe we have like 4 or 5 minutes left. Is he online? I have the magic button here. Do I need to press it now or wait for him to raise his voice on Meet Echo? I think I sent him he should request. Kai, are you online? Can you join the queue?
If he cannot, maybe I can just help him quickly go over the slides.
Yeah, I think I opened the slides first, and maybe Jensen can start to present. If Kai, if you're online and you can join the queue, please do so. I can then press the magic button and you are online.
Yeah, because I think
this
we do not
is
make too much update.
There's
Yeah, he's on that, but maybe
he's on.
Yeah,
I pressed the
third
button.
one.
Sorry. I think it didn't work. But so we are now alto path vector compression. I'm just trying to find the slides. Alto path.
Routing abstract, last one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jensen, if you can present, then that's probably best.
Sure, I can quickly go over the slides because we do not make too much update in this version. And
here is Kai. I pressed the button.
Oh.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Jason. So
okay,
I will
great.
do a remote presentation. So thank you, Young, and hello everyone, I'm Kai, and today I'm going to present the RSA draft. Since we are running out of time, I will skip some of the pages that involve technical details and give only a quick summary. So next slide, please. So here's the summary of the draft for those who may not be familiar with Lorentz state abstraction. So it is short for Lorentz state abstraction, and it's a set of algorithms to provide information for a set of correlated flows. So the information is encoded as an auto path vector response. So how is RSA related to our working group drafts? First, it provides a concrete implementation of the path vector extension as a standalone implementation, and it can also be used to compress and improve the privacy of an existing path vector response without loss of information. So next slide, please. Here we summarize the changes since the last version. Since the overall structure of the draft is pretty stable, after 0.7, we are focusing on improving the clarity. So in this revision, we change the symbols that might look complex and extend the examples to demonstrate the intermediate state. For example, if an algorithm may take multiple iterations, we demonstrate the results after each iteration, while in version 7, we only demonstrate the results after the first iteration. So the next slide, please. Here's just a summary of the contents of the RSA draft. It contains 2 sets of algorithms. The first set includes 3 algorithms to telling people how to do the compression, and the second set includes the encoding and decoding of the information. Basically, how do we extract information from the path vector extension and how to put information into a path vector response. So since we don't have much time, we can just directly go to page 15.
Great, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, the slides are online for people to look at. They are in the data tracker, so
right.
Yes.
Okay, so here is a summary of the RSA draft. We have discussed the roles of this draft and also the updates in the later versions. So it is targeting informational track, and we have not updated this in the draft, and we will do this in the next revision. And we also like to call for reviews from the working group and to adopt this document as a working group draft after the milestones are all set. Great.
Thank you, Kai. Regarding the progress and usefulness of this work, as speaking as chair, I clearly see the usefulness. I mean, compressing path vectors. Regarding process, moving it to working group item, my answer is the same as for the last one. Let's finish the milestones first and then see if we recharter the working group or not. So under the current charter, we had a discussion with Mirya, and I think she fully agrees with Vijay and me that we want to finish the current milestones, and then we have to see if we recharter. So if we do that, then certainly this is a possibility, but not right. We wouldn't make it working group item right now. Okay, sure. But thank you for your presentation. I am happy that it worked out remotely. We are running over time, so I think we're done. I'm happy that we made all the presentations and we got a good overview on the status of our working group items. One last comment. Vijay mentioned that he is looking forward to the meeting in Montreal, and he's very hopeful that he can be there. So I'm not sure yet. I have to see, but we are most likely to have a meeting in Montreal, and hopefully there we can close a lot of the, or by then actually, I hope we can have closed most of the working group last calls that we have on the agenda. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the IETF meeting, and I hope to see most of you at the social event tomorrow. Okay, bye. Yep. Alto out. Alrighty. Okay. Good.